Since a single shooter stormed into two mosques in the New Zealand city of Christchurch and shot dead dozens of people who were attending Friday prayers. Today, the New Zealand Parliament voted to ban military-style assault weapons of the kind that was used in that attack. Incidentally, the kind of weapon that was used in the Christchurch attacks is the same kind of weapon that was used in the massacre of first graders at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut. It's the same kind of weapon that was used at the Pulse nightclub massacre in Orlando, Florida. The same kind of weapon that was used at the Las Vegas massacre in 2017. It's the same kind of weapon that was used at the Parkland, Florida massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And. The mosque attack in New Zealand was March 15th, less than 1 month ago. The vote in the New Zealand Parliament was today, and it was not close. It was 119-1. And now this will be done. The Governor General is going to sign off on this tomorrow, and then the day after that, assault weapons, semi-automatic assault-style rifles will be banned in New Zealand as of Friday. By the end of this week, by the day after tomorrow, it's done.
And I have to reflect, Mr. Speaker, that when I visited the hospitals and the victims, that none of them had just one gunshot wound. I struggle to recall any single gunshot wounds. In every case, they spoke of multiple injuries, multiple debilitating injuries that deemed it impossible for them to recover in days, let alone weeks, Mr. Speaker. They will carry disabilities for a lifetime, and that's before you consider the psychological impact. We are here because of them. And I believe that they are here with us, supporting what we are doing here today as well, because these weapons were designed to kill, and they were designed to maim, and that is what they did on the 15th of March.
From the 15th of March to today's vote to ban assault rifles in that country, that's 26 days. And did I mention that the vote on that bill was 119-1? Meanwhile, here in America, here's what it's like to be a member of Congress sponsoring legislation to ban military-style assault rifles here.
Eric Sawwell, here's a little duty for you. Pop, 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 pop. 30-round clip, you're all gonna drop. I don't give a anymore. You think you got some new young gonna take over the Constitution? You. You want to go to war, We're going to war, and you're gonna be the first casualty. You.
As the dial tone plays out there, at the end, you can see the words on the screen. We recently passed background check bills in the House. We must ban and buy back assault weapons next. I'm not afraid, not of this caller, not of the N.R.A. No more silence, no more fear. That kind of attitude, that kind of work also put that congressman on the cover of the N.R.A. magazine. Mazel tov, what an honor. Congressman Eric Swalwell responded to that honor with this. He said, quote, "Living in the N.R.A.'s head," on the cover of their magazine. But they mischaracterized my position. My plan to ban assault weapons is not hollow. It's very real, and the public is with me. And sorry, the first freedom is not unregulated gun ownership, it's life. Congressman Eric Swalwell is now joining the Democratic race for president. And yes, before you say it, yes, he knows he's a long shot. But you know what? Statistically speaking, isn't everybody a long shot when there are 5 million people running? He's been a long shot before, though. He got his seat in Congress by turfing out a 40-year Democratic incumbent, 40 years. He's the first in his family to go to college. He's the son of a police officer. 2 of his 3 brothers are police officers. Comes from a Republican family. Just today, he said if he's elected, he will nominate a blended cabinet of Democrats and multiple Republicans. That said, it's not like he's running as a moderate. For one, he is totally unafraid on the guns issue. And for another thing, Swalwell is well known to folks who watch cable news, such as yourself. Not just for him appearing here, but also CNN and Fox, too. As a member of the Intelligence Committee and the Judiciary Committee, he has done tons of public interviews, including being particularly visible and particularly aggressive on the Russia investigation. which draws all sorts of fire, I can tell you. But let me just say one last thing about him. In the interest of full disclosure, I feel like I need to tell you that Eric Swalwell is the member of Congress where my parents live. And I feel like I have to disclose to you that my parents love him. That's not weird. The whole district loves him. Frankly, it's because they've watched him grow up. Less than 10 years ago, this was his local campaign video to try to get elected to the city council. This was not that long ago. He won that race to the city council. Then a couple of years later, he was elected to Congress for the first time. In 2012, he won that first race by 4 points. By 2018, by last year, he was reelected by 46 points. That's not me saying he won with 46% of the vote. He won by 46 points. Eric Swalwell's district in California loves him. My dad would follow him to the ends of the earth. And that's a good thing. My dad has good taste. But it does raise the question, why would you give that up? Why now? Why run for president? Joining us now for the interview is Congressman Eric Swalwell, Democratic congressman from California. I asked you to come here and do this when you made your decision. You kept your word. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for bringing me back.
So you announced on Monday night, you said it felt great to make it official. How's these last couple of days been since you did?
They've been thrilling. I took my wife and our 2 kids to Parkland to start the campaign yesterday. We had a town hall. We had about half of the families there and about 500 people, including not just mass shooting survivors, but people's names we never have heard of. Their parents came who were killed in Miami and Tallahassee. And just to make this issue one that is a top issue in the campaign is a goal of mine, because until it's a top issue, I don't think we're going to end gun violence in America.
In terms of what's possible, obviously you have tried to sort of widen the frame in terms of how even people in your own party think about what could happen on gun violence. What would a President Swalwell do day one on gun violence?
Ban and buy back assault weapons. There's 15 million of them out there right now. And if Democrats agree, and a lot of Republicans too, that we should ban future manufacturing and sales, I think you've already gotten to the point where you recognize why they're so dangerous. With a pistol grip, the ability for a shooter to indiscriminately spray a crowd, it leaves people with no chance. I think of Gary Jackson. I prosecuted his murderer. He died in Oakland. Someone fired at him from a 4th floor of a balcony apartment about 40 times. Hit him just once. And his mom asked me before we went to trial, my son was hit in the back of the leg. Wouldn't you want to be hit like in the leg or the arm? And the pathologist and the ballistics expert said, when it comes to an assault weapon, because of how fast the round flies and the energy of the round, just doesn't really leave you with any chance. And so these weapons are different than a pistol or a shotgun or a hunting rifle. So keep those. I think we want to get these back.
You have powerful committee assignments on House Intelligence, House Judiciary. That's part of the reason everybody books you on TV all the time, because those committees are always in the thick of it. Why do you think, on the issues that you care about, gun violence and the other issues that you care about, why do you think you can do more good for the country this year and next year campaigning for the White House instead of just being all in with a Democratic majority in Congress and these plum seats that you've got?
So it's a country I know well. I was born in Iowa, educated in the South, married a Hoosier from Southern Indiana, and elected in one of the most diverse places in the country. So I've seen this country. I know why people work hard, but I see the frustration that on all of the issues, we're just stuck in quicksand. On healthcare, costs are going up. On education, I'm part of the 40 million who have $1.3 trillion collectively in student loan debt. And on gun violence, just shooting after shooting and no action. And so I'm offering a vision of going big on the issues, healthcare, education, gun violence, being bold with the solutions, a buyback, coverage for all plan, but also seeking cures in our lifetime, and having 0% interest on student loans, and doing it good, again, in the way that we govern, seeking to get rid of the dirty money and the dirty maps that pollute our government, but also pledging that I'd put together a blended cabinet, not because it would be easy to lead, but because we're in such a deep, dark hole right now that we're going to need Republicans to work with us to credibly move forward. I may have to go on a search party to find Republicans who will put country over party, but I do think that we're so traumatized right now by what this president has done that you're going to need people who will put our country first on day one.
I have more to ask.
I want to stop right there on what he just said. Once more, blaming the current president of today of the exchange in the past 3 to 4 administrations that has put us where we are. I hear this rambling on and on and on pertaining to issues. Now, he did say one thing that I liked by putting country over party. That is good in theory, but let's see him actually do it. That's kind of like the same problem that I've been dealing with pertaining to putting God over affiliation. I've got people in probably every church administration, if you want to call them an administration, church association, let's use the right word here, church association. I've got people in almost every church association that in some form or fashion agrees with what I'm preaching and teaching and what I'm telling them about interpreting biblical Bible prophecy as far as actual translation. But because they are so asphyxiated with their church group, and it don't matter if it's Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist, Church of Christ, Pentecostal, Assembly of God, Church of God of Prophecy, Jehovah's Witness, because they are so asphyxiated with the association that they're associated with, they would let this country burn and go straight to hell before they would break ranks in doing the right thing. And it's basically the same thing with politics right now, at a stalemate. 2 thumbs up to the country of New Zealand that has now made it official. Less than 30 days, give or take around the next 48 hours, it will be mandated that anybody with an assault rifle, other than someone who is qualified of having an automatic assault rifle, a military grade style rifle, it will be illegal for them to be in their presence. Because of poor leadership. Don't have nothing to do with Trump. Take Trump out of the equation. Because of the ignorant, blinded, poor leadership in this country, we have seen massacre after massacre after massacre after massacre. The event that happened in 1993 in Waco, Texas, did not awaken us. It didn't joggle our minds. We thought, well, this is just going to be a fluke, a one-time deal. Well, we see now that one-time deal has turned into multi-deals. And every time the blood gets thicker and thicker and thicker. Just as I predicted in 2005 to the 43rd President of the United States, that Secret Service up in Nashville, Tennessee, misinterpreted my advisory of a bloody road ahead. I even made the prediction that the extreme refugee problem that we're seeing right now boiling out of the South was going to intensify and get worse. And what is it doing? It's intensifying and it's getting worse. You see, people around here wanted to put old Juby off into the same category that his father was in. They knew that my father wasn't right. But at the same time, old Bob, he had a good heart. He didn't kill none of his children. He left breath in their lungs. And occasionally, if you caught him at the right mood, he would sing a pleasant song to you and pull out a guitar and sing you a melody. They knew that he had a problem. But yet now there was nobody around here that was stern enough or committed enough of doing the right thing. So rather than society eat their words about the individual that's talking right now, which is old Bob's son, Juby, they spread it abroad, to and fro and from valley to valley, to hill, to river, that Bob's old boy, Juby, is just like his daddy. We named him Grizzly because of his psychological overbearingness and his heathenistic, brutal, grisly ways. What do we need to call Juby? Just as of today, I drive by Ricky Simmons' house and I go, "Hello, Mr. Simmons." And he spoke back, "Well, hello, Mr. Jackson, you silly, crazy," on and on and on as I was driving away, slandering not only me, but my personality, everything that I've stood for pertaining to the Bible. These people want to point their finger at me and say how abstract, how unusual, how different that I am. And at the same time, I'm pointing my finger back at them and saying, you're a bunch of low life, no good, worthless human beings that has allowed for the troubles in this great nation called America to have arisen and gotten where it's at today. Now they'll tell you, "Oh no, we want peace, we want peace." But yet now, do you see any of them or hear any of them knocking on my door? Juby, you was right. A bloody road ahead. Juby, it's getting worse out here. Juby, what are we going to do? I have never seen so much idiotic foolishness. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% sure that Noah seen the exact same thing. Other prophets of God seen the very same thing. And even Jesus Christ seen the very, very same thing. Went up into Jerusalem and cried, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, for I have gathered thee together as a hen would gather her chicks, and ye would not listen." It's on the very sign that David and I posted right out here in the front yard before somebody decided to put an axe to it, or a saw, or a crowbar, or a big hammer, vandalize the very thing that was our dreams, that was our desires, that was our property. I'm dealing with Dumb and Dumber. Just like Jesus said that if the blind lead the blind, they both shall leadeth off into the ditch. Thank God there's somebody on the other side of the world, the good authorities from New Zealand in their country that are smart enough and wise enough to rid this problem and nip it at the bud and not allow to play games with our children and our children's future towards seeing the innocent people suffer like these judges and politicians, not only here in this area, but throughout the whole country, has allowed. And as far as I am concerned, the N.R.A. is solely responsible for allowing for the shit to intensify the way that it has towards seeing one incident after another after another. The N.R.A. owes the American people an apology. Talking about the only thing to stop a bad person with a gun is with a good person with a gun. In the meantime, they're out here grabbing up ARs and AK-47s, grabbing up, I guess, missile launchers or whatever else they can get their hands on. I mean, it's like since the ordeal happened in Mount Carmel, since the ordeal happened in Oklahoma, since the big deal happened up in New York City, you would have thought that a lot of this foolishness would have stopped. And that somebody, somewhere, would have had enough sense to have said enough is enough. But no. They just keep playing games with the devil and the devil's tools. Well, I was told a long time ago that if you keep knocking on the devil's door long enough, he'll open the door and he'll let you in. And that's exactly where we're at right now. We are literally in hell. We got a president of the United States of America that is so overwhelmed about the problem down on the southern border, he has almost become speechless to the point of not knowing what to do. I just made a telephone call this morning to Homeland Security up in Nashville, Tennessee, to reveal a message to the president that he needs to start preparing for the excessive boiling heat that's soon to come out of the South. Because in extreme matters, regardless whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, either one can be detrimental to one's human body. And that's all the president needs, is to be on cameras towards watching a bunch of children and a bunch of women basically dying of heat exhaustion, sitting there panting for breath, watching foam coming out of their mouths. That's all we need for a world opinion to fall upon to society. So I explained to Secret Service, you may want to consider doing like they done in 2005 and making an excessive amount of FEMA trailers with good air conditioning in them. And you may want to consider bringing in a lot of big generators and a lot of big fans down there on the border, because it's just a matter of time before the horrendous excessive heat is going to be falling into your atmosphere. Thank God there's people on the other side of the world that are smart enough to identify various crises, regardless whether it's a crisis pertaining to natural catastrophes pertaining to weather events, or it's a catastrophe pertaining to smallpox, a catastrophe pertaining to people not taking care of their health, or pertaining to the drug inducement that has befallen upon to America. Thank God that there's people on the other side of the world, as well as Donald Trump, that can identify these problems and see the storm clouds brewing. But yet, no, we have a society here in America that wants to sit around and they want to snarl up their nose and they want to complain and they want to whine and they want to gripe and they want to talk about the problem, but don't nobody have the solution to it. I have never seen so much idiotic behavior in my entire life. Just as I said a while ago, it's just as Jesus taught. If the blind lead the blind, I promise you, they will both fall into the ditch. And that's exactly what has happened here in not only this neighborhood, but with this government. In the meantime, I personally have got to deal with bitterness. I've got to deal with hate mongering. I've got to deal with sniggering. I've got to deal with pathetic people that want to shoot me birds every time I meet them down the road. I got to deal with devil worshippers pertaining to the Wiccans and people that never have been saved to begin with, that are basically living a hypocrisy lifestyle. In the meantime, I got to deal with every demon that has come out of the pits of hell of trying to bully me, hunt me down, torment my life, simply because David and I, which my brother, he's no longer with me, he's deceased, wanted to do a good thing in the neighborhood. There will be a special, special place for people in hell that are deserving of such torment. And I'm going to say it one last final time, because according to the laws of the land, they've got my hands tied to the point that I can't do nothing. Because if I so much as even step on a wooden nickel, I'm the devil in disguise, according to them. But the only thing that I can hope and pray for is that these people that was part of this world conspiracy, beginning with the Reagan administration, up until now, in which a lot of them back then are still living, Dick Cheney, Young Bush, the rest of the family. And I do hope that this message that I'm talking about right now gets over there to them. Rumsfeld, oh yeah, I know where you live. Not too far from Taos, New Mexico. But the only thing that I can hope is that the medication that they have to damper pain, regardless whether it's Demerol, morphine, or heroin, that they run out of it whenever some of these people are on their deathbeds and they're dying. That for some strange reason, maybe there's an epidemic or something, or maybe the truck just didn't run, but they run out of this type of medication to the point that whenever they are dying, they die a miserable, suffering, pathetic, cruel death. Or the next best thing that I can hope for is that if they're not around to take the mark of the beast, 666, or 999, whichever way you want to look at it, maybe their children, or their grandchildren, or their children's children will go through the suffering because of what did their parents done, or their grandparents done, or their great-grandparents done during this past 30 plus years in the present time that we're living in today. That's the best that I can hope for. Because if I so much as insert even one thought into my mind towards me trying to vindicate not only myself but my people towards this 30-year indifference that has arisen over here in the Western world, then all of a sudden I'm not only in jeopardy of breaking the laws of the land, but then I'm in jeopardy of not being right with my personal salvation pertaining to my Lord and Savior. The psychiatric communities has helped put us where we're at right now, between them, the politicians, and the preachers. Three entities. And of course, if you're looking at the politicians, you're basically looking at the attorneys. What did Jesus say? Woe be unto the doctors and the lawyers. What did I just say that has put us where we are right now? The psychiatric doctors, the politicians, which is basically the lawyers. There are good doctors, there are some good politicians, but the preachers, the infidels, the panhandlers, those are the ones that will receive a worser damnation. For the Bible says, for he who was given much will be beaten with many, many, many stripes. And he who was given little will be beaten with fewer stripes. That to whom much is given, much is required. I have done that in which what my Heavenly Father has required for me to do. Such as I'm doing right now, sitting down, making these data platform YouTube recordings. The people that hear these recordings, if they want to continue to sit around with their hands underneath their hips, that's fine. That's fine, because this is the world that they have designed, which is basically a world of insanity over here in America. But I guarantee you one world that ain't insanity, and that's the world of New Zealand. Because they would probably, all of them, rather take a knife and cut their throats from ear to ear than to sit idly by. There goes my buddy again. I heard him honking. There goes the honker. To sit idly by and let this demonic plague plague their great nation over there like it has over here. What did I just get through talking about? Insanity? A 70-year-old man that don't have nothing to do but drive around and agitate and aggravate, huff and puff, and act like that he's going to blow my house down? He's a joke. Just like the majority of the people around here. You're a joke. Just like our laws, just like our politicians, just like our preachers. You're a joke. But it's a bad joke. And it puts a really bitter, raw taste in not only my mouth, but in my Heavenly Father's mouth. This is sickening. I'm living in a toxic, sick environment here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255. For those that get a hold of this message, if you would please, pray for this ministry, the Windmill Ministries missions, and pray that God will not tolerate such suffering and humongous pain to continue on to the innocent lives that are being affected simply because of the pathetic, corrupt guilty ones.